I held back tears, staring at the stack of overdue bills, their red stamps screaming failure. My husband glanced over and laughed. "It's just numbers on paper, Harper. You're being dramatic again." I documented every withdrawal he made from our accounts. Every lie became evidence. Every stolen dollar transformed into a court order. When the sheriff's heavy knock echoed through our Denver apartment at 10:30 a.m., Damon's smirk finally disappeared. He thought I was weak for crying over unpaid rent and maxed out credit cards. He never imagined those tears were fueling my revenge. My name is Harper Lane, and I used to believe marriage meant sharing everything: joy, sorrow, and especially financial burdens. That rainy Tuesday night in our Denver apartment shattered that illusion forever. The television blared some mindless reality show while I sat hunched over our dining table, surrounded by a sea of red-stamped envelopes. Past due, final notice, service disconnection warning. Each one felt like a slap across my face. The electricity bill alone was 3 months behind. Our internet provider threatened termination within 72 hours. The condo association fees hadn't been touched since January. "Damon," I called out, my voice cracking. "We need to talk about these bills." My husband of 7 years didn't even lower the TV volume. He lounged on our leather couch, the one he'd insisted on buying, despite my protests about the price, nursing his third beer of the evening. At 35, Damon Ridge still carried himself like the college quarterback he'd once been, all swagger and dismissive shrugs. "Not now, Harper. The game's on." "There's no game on. You're watching House Hunters." I couldn't keep the frustration from bleeding through. Our electricity might get cut off this week. That's when he finally looked at me, and I'll never forget the expression on his face. Not concern, not partnership, not even mild worry. He was amused. A slow, condescending smile spread across his features as he watched me sitting there, tears threatening to spill over my carefully organized spreadsheets. "You're crying, seriously?" He laughed, actually laughed. "Harper, you work at a data company dealing with numbers all day, and you're getting worked up over a few bills. It's just paperwork. Numbers on a screen. Numbers that need to be paid. Damon. With money we don't have because the construction project payment is delayed again. I told you this." He waved his hand dismissively, the same gesture he'd been using for 6 months now. "North Vista always pays out eventually. Stop being so dramatic." I wanted to scream. As a collections specialist at LumenEdge Analytics, I knew every excuse in the book. I heard them daily from people drowning in debt, and now my own husband was feeding me the same lines. The joint checking account had $47. The savings account, our emergency fund I'd carefully built over 3 years, had been drained to zero last month for another one of his temporary business expenses. "Where's the money from your last paycheck?" I asked, though I already knew I wouldn't get a straight answer. "Had to cover materials for a side project. It's an investment." "Harper, you wouldn't understand." There it was, the dismissal that had become his signature move. Damon kept the credit cards, managed the big picture finances, and left me to somehow make $47 stretch to cover groceries, gas, and now, apparently, overdue utilities. He had access to everything, while I got an allowance like a child. The rain picked up outside, drumming against our third-floor windows. I gathered the bills with shaking hands, trying to maintain some dignity as tears finally escaped. That's when I saw it tucked between the electric bill and the internet notice, a credit card statement with my name on it. My blood went cold. "Damon, what's this?" I held up the statement. "I don't have a Mountain Regional Credit Union card." He didn't even glance over. "Must be a mistake. Call them tomorrow." But I was already scanning the statement. $3,487 in charges. Hardware stores, equipment rentals, cash advances at 11:45 p.m. at casinos. My name, my social security number, an account I'd never opened. "This has charges from Apex Tools and Rocky Mountain Equipment Rental," I said, my voice growing steadier as anger began to replace hurt. "The same places you shop for work." "Coincidence." He finally muted the TV, sitting up straighter. Why would I need to use your name? I have my own cards. It was a good question, one I intended to answer. That night, as Damon snored beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through possibilities. In my work, I'd seen every type of financial fraud imaginable. I knew the patterns, the red flags, the ways people hid money from spouses, creditors, and the IRS. The credit card statement crinkled in my hand where I'd hidden it under my pillow. Tomorrow, I'd pull my credit report. Tomorrow, I'd start documenting everything. Damon thought my tears were weakness. He was about to learn they were the last warning before the storm. The patterns emerged slowly at first, like cracks spreading through glass. Every Thursday at 3:15 p.m., Damon would text me, running to the bank, need anything. Every Thursday at 3:45 p.m., our joint account would be lighter by $220. Cash withdrawal. No explanation. I started keeping a notebook hidden in my desk at Lumen Edge, documenting everything. The Thursday withdrawals. The mysterious material advances that appeared on his pay stubs but never made it to our accounts. The medical bills that went unpaid while he somehow had money for new work boots and nights out with his crew. We're having Brad and Melissa over for dinner Saturday, Damon announced one morning, adjusting his North Vista construction polo in our bedroom mirror. Show off that lasagna you make. I looked up from my coffee, exhausted from another sleepless night spent searching for ways to pay our bills. We can't afford to host dinner parties right now. See, this is your problem. Harper. He turned to face me, that familiar condescending smile playing at his lips. You're so focused on the negative. Brad thinks you're amazing, always saying how lucky I am to have such a devoted wife. Don't ruin that image with your penny-pinching anxiety. The image, that's all that mattered to him. At barbecues and game nights, Damon played the perfect husband. He'd wrap his arm around my waist, call me sweetheart, and joke about how I worried too much about money while he focused on building our future. Our friends saw a successful construction supervisor with a stable data analyst wife. They didn't see me checking our bank balance at 2A. Trying to figure out how to keep the lights on. Harper, you look stressed, my best friend Isla Mendez said over lunch that Wednesday. As a forensic accountant, she had a radar for financial distress that rivaled my own. Talk to me. I wanted to maintain the facade, but something in her dark eyes made me crumble. It's Damon. The money just disappears. And I found this credit card in my name I never opened. Isla set down her sandwich, her expression shifting from concerned friend to professional. Show me. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos I'd taken of the statement. She studied them with the intensity she usually reserved for corporate fraud cases. Harper, honey, you need to pull your full credit report. Today. I'm planning to. No. Today. Right now. She pulled out her laptop. I'll walk you through it. And Harper, open your own bank account. Today. Don't tell him. Start putting any money you can in there, even if it's just $20 from grocery money. You need a safety net he can't touch. That afternoon, we sat in a corner of a quiet coffee shop as my credit history loaded on Isla's screen. My stomach dropped with each new revelation. 3 store credit cards, 2 personal loans, a line of credit with Rocky Mountain Equipment Rental, all opened in the last 18 months, all with my forged signature. This is identity theft, Isla said quietly. And financial abuse. You know that. Right. I stared at the screen, tallying the debt in my name. Almost $20,000. But he's my husband. That doesn't give him the right to destroy your financial future. She pulled up another window. Look at this inquiry from Diamond Ridge LLC. That's not a coincidence with his last name. My hands shook as she showed me the business credit application. There it was, Ridgeworks Supply, a limited liability company registered 3 months ago. Primary owner Damon Ridge. Personal guarantor Harper Lane. I never signed this, I whispered. Of course you didn't. He's using your credit because his is probably maxed out. Isla closed the laptop and grabbed my hands. Harper, You need a lawyer. This isn't just about unpaid bills anymore." That night, Damon came home late, whistling and carrying a new drill set. DeWalt, top of the line, at least $400. "Got a great deal," he said, setting it on the counter. "Investment in our future, babe." I stared at the yellow and black case, thinking about the $43 currently in our checking account, the disconnection notice from the power company, and the $20,000 of debt he'd put in my name. "Where did you get the money?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Told you, the project payment came through. Partial, but enough." He walked over and kissed my forehead, and I fought not to recoil. "Stop worrying so much. I've got it handled." As he walked away, I noticed the receipt sticking out of the bag. Rocky Mountain Equipment Rental. Paid with the credit line in my name. That's when I stopped being sad and started getting strategic. My dining table transformed into a war room. Color-coded spreadsheets covered every inch green for legitimate expenses, yellow for suspicious transactions, red for outright fraud. I'd learned long ago that in collections, documentation was everything. Every text message, every receipt, every timestamp became a weapon in my arsenal. The pattern was meticulous once I knew where to look. Damon's Thursday withdrawals aligned perfectly with deposits into Ridgeworks Supply's business account. I'd found the statements hidden in his truck's glove compartment during my cleaning. The company was a shell, existing only to funnel equipment purchases that he'd resell for cash. "Working late again?" Damon asked one evening, finding me surrounded by papers at 11:30 p.m. Quarter-end reports. I lied smoothly, sliding a credit card statement under my laptop. "You know how it is." He barely glanced over, more interested in his phone. "Don't stay up too late, babe." After he went to bed, I continued my investigation. Cross-referencing was my specialty at Lumen Edge, and now I applied those skills to my own life. Credit card charges mapped against his location data from our shared phone plan. Text messages about grabbing drinks with the crew, lined up with ATM withdrawals. The overtime hours he claimed matched perfectly with purchases at Apex Tools, always right before they closed at 9 p.m. But the real revelation came when I accessed the business registration for Ridgeworks Supply. Isla had taught me how to search public records, and there it was, a storage unit rental in Commerce City, paid monthly from the business account. Unit B47 at Secure Space Storage. I drove there on my lunch break the next day, my heart pounding as I pulled into the facility. I couldn't access the unit without a key, but I didn't need to. The security camera at the entrance was all I needed. I sweet-talked the manager, Marcus, explaining I was worried my husband was having an affair and meeting someone at a storage unit. "I can't show you anyone else's rental," Marcus said apologetically, "but I can confirm if someone's name is on a unit, for safety reasons." "Damon Ridge," I asked, hating how my voice shook. "Yeah, B47. Rented it about 4 months ago. He's here pretty regular Tuesdays and Fridays, usually around 6 p.m. Tuesdays and Fridays? The days he had site meetings that ran late. That Friday, I called in sick and parked across from Secure Space at 5:45 p.m. At 6:10, Damon's truck pulled in. I watched through binoculars a purchase I'd justified as bird-watching equipment as he unlocked Unit B47. Inside, I could see industrial shelving lined with equipment, concrete saws, generators, welding gear, thousands of dollars of tools that should have been at job sites. He loaded several items into his truck, then drove to a different location, Cash's Tool Exchange, a used equipment dealer on the wrong side of town. 30 minutes later, he emerged counting bills. I followed him to an ATM where he deposited the cash not into our joint account, but into a Bank of the Rockies account I didn't know existed. That night, I smiled through dinner as he complained about a tough day at the site. I nodded sympathetically when he said the payment delay meant we'd have to tighten our belts for another month. I even kissed him goodnight, tasting the lies on his lips. Saturday morning, while Damon played golf with Brad, I executed Phase 2, using my access to credit monitoring through work. I pulled a comprehensive report on both our names, His credit was destroyed 6 maxed-out cards, 2 defaulted loans, a credit score in the 400s. No wonder he'd moved on to using my identity. But the smoking gun came from an unexpected source. Going through our cloud storage for tax documents, I found photos he'd taken for insurance purposes. Every single piece of equipment in that storage unit, documented with serial numbers and purchase dates. He'd been stupid enough to save the evidence, probably planning to claim theft eventually and collect insurance money. I downloaded everything. Every photo, every document, every email about Ridgeworks Supply. My personal laptop filled with gigabytes of evidence while I created backup drives hidden at Isla's house and in my desk at work. "Find anything interesting?" Isla asked when I dropped off the latest drive Sunday evening. "He's been running this scam for over a year," I said, exhaustion weighing down every word. Buying equipment with credit in my name through his shell company, storing it, then selling it for cash he hides in a secret account. That's wire fraud, identity theft, and probably tax evasion, Isla said, her forensic accountant mind already building the case. "Harper, this is criminal." "I know." I pulled out a folder of printouts. I mapped every transaction, $23,000 in equipment purchased on my credit, $15,000 in cash from resales, all while telling me we can't afford groceries. Isla studied the documents with professional appreciation. "This is meticulous." "You've got him cold." "I learned from the best," I said, managing a small smile. "All those deadbeat cases at work finally paid off." "What's your next move?" I thought about the power disconnection notice. Now 3 days from execution, the empty refrigerator, the $47 in our account while he had $15,000 hidden away. "I'm going to bury him," I said quietly. "But first, I need a lawyer who specializes in financial fraud within marriage." Isla smiled, pulling out her phone. "I know just the person. Avery Holt. She'll eat him alive." Avery Holt's office occupied the 19th floor of a downtown Denver high-rise, all glass and steel with a view of the Rockies. At 52, she carried herself like a general preparing for war, silver hair pulled back severely, navy suit sharp enough to cut glass, eyes that had seen every type of marital financial crime imaginable. $23,000 in fraudulent debt, she said, reviewing my documentation. $15,000 in hidden assets, identity theft, wire fraud, conversion of marital property. She looked up from the papers. "Harper, this is one of the most thoroughly documented cases I've seen in 20 years of practice." "I work in collections," I said simply. "Documentation is everything." "Good, because we're going to hit him from 3 angles simultaneously." Avery pulled out a legal pad, sketching a battle plan. "First, credit protection and identity theft claims. We'll freeze your credit immediately and dispute every fraudulent account. That's defensive." She drew a second column. "Second, divorce filing with an emergency motion for temporary orders. We'll request exclusive control of marital finances, force full disclosure of all accounts, and demand an accounting of the dissipated assets. That pins him down." The third column made me lean forward. "Finally, a civil suit for conversion of marital property, fraud, and identity theft. We'll seek immediate attachment of assets that means freezing his hidden accounts and putting liens on that equipment in storage." "Can we really do all that?" I asked, hope mixing with fear. "We can do more." Avery smiled, and it reminded me of a shark circling prey. "The criminal aspect gives us leverage. The district attorney could press charges based on your evidence, but we'll use that as a negotiation tool first." "What about the storage unit with all the equipment?" "That's where it gets interesting." She pulled out another form. "We'll request a writ of repleve in a court order for immediate return of property obtained through fraud. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office executes these. They'll literally show up and seize the equipment." My heart raced. If we file Monday morning, we can get an emergency hearing by Wednesday. If the judge signs off and with this evidence, execution could happen as soon as Friday? 3 days to prepare? 3 days to maintain the facade while setting up the killing blow. "There's one problem," I said. "The joint account only has $47. I need money for filing fees. Retainer. Stop. Avery held up her hand. Colorado law allows for temporary support orders in cases of financial abuse. We'll request the court to order him to pay your legal fees. Plus, I work on contingency for the civil suit. I'll take 30% of whatever we recover. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a business card. This is for Second Chance Banking. They specialize in accounts for financial abuse victims. Open one tomorrow. Start redirecting your paycheck immediately. What if he notices? Let him. By the time he figures it out, we'll have him in a legal vice. She handed me a thick folder. Emergency protective order paperwork. Fill this out tonight. It includes a kick-out order for the apartment and temporary exclusive use of all marital accounts. Kick him out of our home. Harper, he stole your identity, destroyed your credit, and hid $15,000 while you cried over unpaid bills. This isn't just divorce, it's financial warfare. And in war, you don't leave the enemy in your camp. That evening, I sat in my car outside our apartment building, gathering courage. Inside, Damon was probably watching TV, oblivious to the storm approaching. I thought about all the nights I'd gone hungry so we could save money while he spent hundreds at tools stores, all the times he'd laughed at my tears. I called Isla. It's happening. Lawyer engaged. Filing Monday. You need backup, she asked immediately. Not yet, but can you take sick leave Friday? Already submitted? I want to see his face when the sheriff shows up. Inside the apartment, Damon barely looked up as I entered. Where have you been? I'm starving. Work ran late. I'll make something quick. Why? I set down my purse. The legal documents hidden inside, feeling like they weighed 1,000 pounds. By the way, he said casually, I need you to sign something for the business. Just a formality for a new supplier account. There, it was another attempt to use my credit. The audacity almost made me laugh. Sure, I said sweetly. Just leave it on the counter. I'll look at it later. He grunted approval, returning to his show. I went to the kitchen, pulling out pasta for dinner while mentally reviewing the battle plan. Monday, file everything. Tuesday, serve papers at his work. Wednesday, emergency hearing. Thursday, prepare for enforcement. Friday, execution day. As the water boiled, I thought about the sheriff's department protocols I'd researched. They'd arrive without warning, usually mid-morning when people were least prepared. They'd have the writ, a locksmith if needed, and a moving crew on standby. Everything in that storage unit would be cataloged, seized, and held pending the civil trial. Smells good, babe, Damon called out, never knowing he was enjoying one of his last peaceful weekends. I stirred the sauce, a small smile playing at my lips. Just wait until you see what I have planned for Friday. Tuesday afternoon at 2:45 p.m., process server Maria Gonzalez walked into North Vista Construction's main office. I knew because Avery had texted me, papers served at workplace, impact in 3, 2, 1. My phone exploded with texts from Damon. What the hell is this? Divorce? Are you insane? You better call your lawyer off right now. This is about money. I told you the payment is coming. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat in a conference room with Avery and 2 representatives from North Vista's Human Resources Department Director Janet Walsh and Legal Counsel Thomas Park. Ms. Lane, we're here at your attorney's request, Janet said carefully, studying the documents Avery had provided. These are serious allegations about time card fraud. Avery slid a spreadsheet across the table. My client documented 37 instances where Mr. Ridge claimed overtime hours that corresponded with purchases at equipment retailers. GPS data from his company vehicle shows he was at Apex Tools, not job sites. Thomas Park's face went pale as he reviewed the evidence. This is comprehensive. There's more, I said, finding my voice. The temporary advances he's been taking for materials. I have receipts showing that equipment was never delivered to North Vista sites. He's been storing them in a private unit and reselling them. How much? Janet asked quietly. Over $30,000 in the past year. Avery answered. We're not seeking action against North Vista. We know your victims too. But we need verification of his actual income versus reported income for our divorce proceedings. Janet exchanged glances with Thomas. We'll need to conduct an internal investigation. Mr. Ridge will be placed on administrative leave effective immediately. My phone buzzed. Damon again. They're sending me home. What did you tell them? By 4 p.m. Word had spread through Damon's network. Brad called me 3 times. Melissa sent texts asking if I was okay and offering support during this difficult misunderstanding. They had no idea what their golden boy had been doing. I arrived home at 5:30 to find Damon pacing our living room like a caged animal, still in his North Vista polo, a beer bottle clutched in his hand. You went to my work. His voice was deadly quiet. You tried to get me fired. I didn't try anything, I said calmly, setting down my purse. I simply provided documentation of fraud to interested parties. Fraud. He laughed, but it was hollow. Using my own overtime pay to invest in equipment is fraud now. I pulled out my phone, showing him photos of the storage unit interior I'd taken through the window. Your overtime pay, or the $23,000 in credit cards and loans you opened in my name? The color drained from his face. How did I find out I'm a collections specialist? Damon, this is literally what I do for a living. Did you really think I wouldn't notice my own credit being destroyed? He set down the beer, his hands shaking slightly. Harper, look, I can explain. Explain it to the judge. Emergency hearing is tomorrow at 9 a.m. You're serious about this divorce thing. Dead serious. And it's not just divorce. I pulled out the civil suit paperwork, laying it on the coffee table. Identity theft, fraud, conversion of marital assets. The district attorney's office has been notified. For the first time since I'd met him, Damon looked genuinely afraid. Criminal charges. Harper, come on, we can work this out. Like we worked out the 3 months of unpaid rent, the electricity that's about to be shut off, the empty refrigerator while you spent $400 on a new drill set. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. You laughed at me, Damon. I was crying over bills, terrified we'd be evicted, and you laughed. I was stressed. The pressure at work. The pressure of stealing from both your employer and your wife. I walked to our bedroom, returning with a suitcase. Your brother is expecting you. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're kicking me out. This is my apartment. Actually, it's the court's decision. Temporary restraining order, signed this afternoon. You have 1 hour to pack essentials. You can arrange to get the rest later with supervision. He grabbed the order, reading frantically. Exclusive use of marital residence. Freezing of joint accounts. Attachment of business assets. He looked up, his swagger finally completely gone. You can't do this. It's already done. Your Hidden Bank of the Rockies account, frozen as of 3 p.m. The storage unit will be secured by court order. The equipment you bought with my credit being seized Friday morning. Friday. His voice cracked. That's in 3 days. Actually, 2 days and about 16 hours. I glanced at my watch. The sheriff's office is very efficient. They'll meet you at the storage unit at 10 a.m. sharp. Bring the key, or they'll cut the lock. Damon sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. This is insane. All over some bills. No, I said quietly. It's over respect, partnership, trust. Things you destroyed every time you stole from me and then came home to laugh at my fears. He looked up, attempting his old charming smile one last time. Harper, baby, we can fix this. Just call off the lawyers. We'll get counseling. Work through it. Your hour is ticking, I said, turning toward the kitchen. I'll be making dinner. For one. As I prepared my meal, I heard him on the phone with his brother, voice rising and falling as he tried to explain why he needed a place to stay. The words misunderstanding and overreacting featured prominently, but I also heard the fear underneath the bravado. He knew the evidence was ironclad. He knew the sheriff was coming. And for the first time in our marriage, he knew I wasn't backing down. Wednesday morning, I executed the financial guillotine with surgical precision. At 8 a.m., I sat in second chance banking, opening my own account with my latest paycheck, the one I'd redirected from our joint account just in time. The banker, Sophia, had seen this before. Financial abuse recovery, she asked gently, noting the divorce paperwork. Recovery and justice, I replied, watching my money finally, truly mine, appear in the new account. By 8:30, I was on the phone with our credit card companies. I need to report fraud and remove myself as an authorized user immediately. May I ask the reason? The representative inquired. Identity theft by spouse. Case number CR2025-473 with the Denver Police Department. One by one, the cards fell. Chase frozen. Capital One locked. Mountain Regional Credit Union under investigation. Each call ended with the same result: Damon's access severed. My name protected. At 9:15, while Damon sat in divorce court listening to the judge grant our temporary orders, I was at Lumen Edge's HR department. I need to update my direct deposit and benefits immediately. I told Marcus, our benefits coordinator. Also, I need to remove my husband from my health insurance. That usually requires a qualifying life event, Marcus said carefully. I slid him a copy of the temporary restraining order. Does this qualify? His eyes widened. I'll process it right away. By noon, the texts from Damon had evolved from angry to desperate. My cards aren't working. The joint account is locked. How am I supposed to pay for anything? This is illegal. Avery had prepared me for this. Don't respond to anything about money, she'd advised. Let him figure it out. But the best part came at 2 p.m. when Avery called with an update from court. The judge was thoroughly impressed with your documentation, she said, satisfaction coloring her voice. Temporary support order granted. He has to pay you $1,500 a month starting immediately. His wages will be garnished directly. What about his hidden account? Frozen pending investigation? But here's the beautiful part. The judge ordered him to pay your legal fees. All of them. I sat in my cubicle, staring at my computer screen, feeling a strange mix of vindication and exhaustion. Around me, co-workers went about their day, unaware that I'd just dismantled my husband's entire financial house of cards. That evening, Isla came over with Chinese takeout and wine. How does it feel? She asked, pouring generous glasses. Like I can breathe for the first time in 2 years. I admitted. I paid the electric bill today, with my own money, from my own account. And Damon. I pulled up my phone, showing her his latest texts. He'd discovered the full extent of the freeze around 4 p. You froze the business account. That's my company. The equipment is mine. You've destroyed everything I've built. The irony is delicious, Isla said, raising her glass. He destroyed your credit, and now he's mad you're protecting yourself. Wait, it gets better. I pulled out a letter that had arrived that afternoon. From North Vista's legal department. They've completed their preliminary investigation. Isla read aloud, based on evidence provided and our internal audit, we've identified approximately $47,000 in fraudulent advances and falsified overtime claims. We will be pursuing full restitution and have forwarded our findings to the district attorney's office. 47,000. Isla whistled. That's serious prison time. If they prosecute criminally, right now, it's leverage for the divorce. I took a sip of wine, feeling its warmth spread through me. Avery says he'll likely settle quickly to avoid criminal charges. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Brad. Harper, this is insane. Damon says you've lost it. He's staying at his brother's with nothing but a suitcase. Can't you work this out? I typed back. Ask him about the $23,000 in credit cards he opened in my name. Ask him about the storage unit full of stolen equipment. Ask him why I cried over bills while he had $15,000 hidden away. Brad didn't respond. As the evening wore on, I organized my documents for Friday's main event. The sheriff's department had confirmed 10 a.m. sharp at Secure Space Storage. Avery would meet me there, along with a moving company contracted to haul away the seized equipment. You should take the day off, Isla suggested. Watch it happen. Already approved. Called it a personal day. I smiled, remembering how Damon always mocked me for never taking time off. Seems appropriate. My phone rang Damon's brother, Kyle. Harper, he's a mess, Kyle said without preamble. Can't you ease up? He's learned his lesson. Has he? Because 3 hours ago, he was still claiming he did nothing wrong. Look, he admits he made some mistakes with money. Mistakes? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. He committed identity theft, Kyle. He stole from his employer. He let me think we were broke while hoarding cash. Those aren't mistakes, they're crimes. Kyle sighed. Well, what's happening Friday? He keeps talking about Friday. Justice, I said simply. Tell him to bring the storage unit key. It'll save everyone time. After ending the call, I stood at my apartment window, looking out at the Denver skyline. Somewhere out there, Damon was probably raging to anyone who'd listen about his crazy ex who'd overreacted to a small financial disagreement. But in 38 hours, when the sheriff's department arrived at that storage unit, his stories would crumble, the equipment would be seized, the evidence would be logged, and everyone would see exactly what kind of man he really was. I raised my wine glass to my reflection in the window. Here's to Friday. Thursday evening at 7:20 p.m. Damon used his key. I'd been expecting this. Avery had warned me that desperate men do desperate things, and the restraining order wouldn't physically stop him from entering. I heard the door open from my bedroom, where I'd been organizing documents for tomorrow's seizure. Harper. His voice carried through the apartment, that familiar tone somewhere between anger and condescension. We need to talk. I grabbed my phone, already recording, and walked out to face him. He stood in our living room, my living room now holding a folder of papers, his face haggard but his eyes still blazing with that particular brand of arrogance I'd once mistaken for confidence. You're violating the restraining order, I said calmly. You need to leave. Screw the order. He tossed the folder onto the coffee table. Do you know what you've done? North Vista fired me today. 15 years with that company. Gone. They fired you because you stole $47,000 from them. I borrowed it. I was going to pay it back once the equipment business took off. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing now. But you had to go and ruin everything with your investigation. I kept my distance, phone still recording. I ruined everything. You opened $23,000 in credit cards in my name. For the business, for our future. He spun to face me, and for a moment, I saw something dangerous in his expression. Every dollar I spent was an investment, but you couldn't see the big picture. You never could. The big picture. I couldn't help the laugh that escaped. Damon, we had $47 in our account. The electricity was about to be shut off. I was skipping meals so we could afford gas. Drama. Always drama with you. He moved closer, and I instinctively stepped back. You cried over a few bills, and I tried to lighten the mood. One laugh. Harper. I laughed once, and you destroyed my entire life. You destroyed mine first. I pulled out the thick stack of evidence from my bag, setting it on the table between us. Every fraudulent account, every forged signature. Every lie you told while I suffered. It's all here. He stared at the paper's credit reports, bank statements, photos of the storage unit, transcripts of his texts about investments that were really gambling debts. You've been building this case for weeks, he said slowly, realization dawning. While I was living my normal life, you were plotting. While you were stealing from me, I was documenting. I corrected. There's a difference. His laugh was bitter, hollow. You think you've won tomorrow they'll take the equipment. Sure, but that's my property, my investment. Purchased with my credit, in my name. The law is very clear about fraud. Damon. He picked up one of the photos, the storage unit interior. How did you even find this? You taught me, actually. I moved toward the kitchen, keeping him in sight. All those times you said I was too focused on small details, that I couldn't see the forest for the trees. Turns out, those details were breadcrumbs leading straight to your fraud. It's not fraud when it's Marshall property. It is when you forge my signature, when you hide assets, when you steal my identity. I pulled up the business registration on my phone. Ridgeworks Supply, LLC, registered with me as guarantor, without my knowledge or consent. He slumped onto the couch, the same spot where he'd laughed at my tears just weeks ago. What do you want? Harper money. The apartment. What will it take to call this off? I want what you stole from me, my credit restored, my dignity back, the ability to pay bills without crying. I stayed standing, maintaining my power. And I want everyone to know exactly what kind of man you are. You're going to be there tomorrow, he said, not a question. At the storage unit. You want to watch me humiliated. I want to ensure proper chain of custody for the evidence. But yes, watching you finally face consequences will be a bonus. He stood abruptly, and I tensed. But instead of approaching me, he walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. You know what the funny part is, he said quietly. I actually thought I was smart. Thought I'd built the perfect side business. Equipment flipping. Tax-free cash. Everything in your name so it couldn't touch my credit when things went south. Things went south because you're a thief. Damon. He turned to face me one last time. I'm a survivor. There's a difference. No, I said firmly. You're a parasite. And tomorrow, you get removed. He moved toward the door, then paused. You were right about one thing. I shouldn't have laughed. That was cruel. No, Damon, the cruelty was everything else. The laugh just revealed who you really were. He left without another word, the door closing with a quiet click. I immediately called Avery. He was here. I recorded everything. Perfect. Forward it to me immediately. We'll add violating the restraining order to the list. She paused. Are you okay? I looked around my apartment, my sanctuary, my space, finally free of his toxic presence. I will be, I said. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will be. Friday morning arrived crisp and clear, the Colorado sun painting the mountains gold. I dressed carefully professional blazer, pressed pants, the kind of outfit that said competent rather than victim. Isla picked me up at 9:30 a.m. Ready for this? She asked, squeezing my hand. I've been ready since he laughed at my tears. The secure space storage facility looked different in daylight, less mysterious, more mundane. Just rows of orange doors hiding secrets. But today, Unit B47 would give up its treasures. Avery was already there, standing next to 2 Arapahoe County Sheriff's deputies and a locksmith. A moving truck idled nearby. Evidence transport stenciled on its side. He's not here yet, Avery said, checking her watch. 9:55. He'll come, I said. His ego won't let him miss this. At 9:58, Damon's truck pulled into the lot. He parked slowly, deliberately, as if delay could change the outcome. Kyle was with him moral support, probably, or maybe witness protection. Damon approached our group, his usual swagger replaced by something brittle. He looked at me, then at the deputies, then back at me. Harper. Just my name. Flat and defeated. Sheriff Deputy Martinez stepped forward. Mr. Ridge, we have a writ of replevin for the contents of Unit B47. We'll need the key. Damon's hand shook slightly as he pulled out his key ring. This is theft. That equipment is mine. Sir, the court has determined otherwise pending investigation of fraud. Deputy Martinez said calmly. Please open the unit. The lock clicked open. The door rolled up with a metallic screech. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered on, illuminating Damon's secret empire. Concrete saws, generators, welding equipment, power tools, all tagged with my credit card receipts in Avery's filing system. $23,000 of debt in neat rows on metal shelving. Begin inventory, Deputy Martinez instructed his partner. They worked methodically, photographing each item, checking serial numbers against our list. I watched Damon's face as his stolen kingdom was cataloged, tagged, and loaded into the truck. Each piece of equipment that disappeared into that vehicle took a piece of his arrogance with it. "The DeWalt contractor set," the deputy called out. "Serial number matches the April purchase." The drill set he'd brought home that night, telling me it was an investment in our future. Makita concrete saw, purchased May 12th, the day I'd skipped lunch to save money for groceries. Lincoln Electric welder, June 3rd, my birthday. He'd taken me to a fast food restaurant, claiming times were tight. 40 minutes in, they found something unexpected, a locked filing cabinet in the back corner. "Mr. Ridge, we'll need this opened as well," Deputy Martinez said. "That's private. It's in the unit covered by the writ. Open it, or we'll cut it." Inside the cabinet cache, bundles of it, wrapped in bank bands. The deputy whistled low. "We'll need to count this as evidence." $8,420. Cash from his equipment sales, hidden while I cried over bills. Damon's composure finally cracked. "Harper, please, this has gone far enough." I stepped forward, close enough that only he could hear me. "Remember when I was crying over the electric bill, sobbing because I thought we'd lose everything? And you laughed." His jaw tightened. "Who's laughing now?" "Damon." At 10:45, it was over. The unit stood empty except for dust and regret. Damon had to sign the inventory 6 pages detailing everything seized, including the cash. Evidence in both our divorce and his criminal cases. Kyle put a hand on Damon's shoulder, guiding him toward their truck. But Damon stopped, turning back one last time. "You've destroyed me," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "No," I replied, my voice carrying across the lot. "You destroyed yourself. I just documented it." As their truck pulled away, Avery turned to me with a satisfied smile. "With the cash and equipment recovered, plus his garnished wages, you'll be made whole within 18 months. Your credit will be restored even sooner. And the criminal charges? The DA will offer a plea deal. Probation, restitution, no jail time if he cooperates fully. He'll take it men like him always do when cornered." Isla hugged me as the evidence truck departed. "How do you feel?" I thought about it, really considered the question. The weight I'd carried for 2 years was gone. The fear, the shame, the desperation all evaporated in the morning sun. "Free," I said finally. "I feel free." 3 weeks later, the divorce was final. Damon took the plea deal, accepting 5 years of probation and monthly restitution payments. He moved to Wyoming, starting over with nothing but his truck and his deflated ego. I kept the apartment, rebuilt my credit, and learned to trust my instincts again. The bills got paid, the lights stayed on, and I never cried over money again. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment when the sheriff knocked on our door. The sound that echoed through our apartment, 3 heavy knocks that changed everything, the exact moment when Damon's laughter finally stopped. Justice doesn't always come with sirens and handcuffs. Sometimes it arrives at 10:30 a.m. on a Friday morning, wearing a deputy's uniform and carrying a court order. Sometimes it sounds like 3 knocks on a door. Sometimes it looks like a woman who refused to be broken, standing in a storage facility, watching karma come home. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives mean everything to our community.